Hey, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again today for another episode of Trucker Money. I appreciate it. If you like this kind of thing, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Now, a hot topic lately seems to be economic downturn. We're going into another depression. Things are going to go south even worse than they were before. Hey, that's a very real possibility. It very well could. I think I've said from the beginning, after second quarter numbers start coming in, which will be mid-July to that August time period, I think we're gonna see some downturn again. So that's a very real possibility. Hey, nobody has a crystal ball, so nobody can say for sure. But it doesn't hurt to be prepared for it, and that's a topic that a lot of people are talking about right now. And there's more than one approach to that. A lot of people seem to want to just pile everything into gold and silver. Well, gold and silver is, in my opinion, a hedge against inflation, and it tracks, the dollar and stuff like that. It's a store of value. But in my opinion, I don't want everything I have tied up into one thing. Hey, we can all be wrong at some point, or you may miss an opportunity. Some people will tie it all up in real estate. You probably, if you've seen some of the videos, know that I also like dividend-paying stocks and things like that. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of that today. It's not financial advice, it's just my opinion, my journey, and some things that I've done, and maybe help you recognize some additional opportunities for yourself. So the reason we do this, Trucker Money, is to kind of talk about money in general outside of trucking. We don't want everything to be tied up in one single thing. We want to have multiple sources so that when times are tough, maybe freight is slow, you can still have an income coming from somewhere else. And also maybe help you get that retirement you've been working so hard for. And it's not always only stocks, only real estate, only this, only that. We'll talk about maybe potential opportunities to earn extra money other places when they arise. So anything anybody wants to talk about, it's all fair game here. But that being said, a time like this, people will run from the stock market. It's going to crash. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. It might. Hey, it probably will. But that's history. That's how it happens. There's an opportunity to make money during these times. So let's just talk about a couple things today that maybe are overlooked. Something you can also do to protect yourself in a time of economic crisis or devaluing money, this is just my opinion, is to buy world-class companies that have been historically through, they've been through it. World War I, World War II, every war you can think of, Black Friday, the dot-com bubble, 9/11, every tragedy ever thrown at this country. But we need these things. Okay, these are things that our day-to-day lives rely on. We in some ways we have to have. So you can say, well, hey, you put money in these, the share price can go down, you can lose money. Yeah, share price will go down. You can have depreciation there, but you still got the same number of shares. And with most of the companies that I pick, you get paid a dividend for waiting. So if you reinvest that dividend, you're buying more shares. When things recover, hey, you got more money because you got more shares at a higher price. This dividend strategy and income approach that I'm taking is, after some additional research and learning throughout the last few years, the way I kind of came to the conclusion that is for me is this is how the very, very rich people approach their money. Not saying that I'll ever be one. I have no illusions of ever being a Rockefeller or a Morgan, or Warren Buffett. But if you've ever wondered if you remember in the news several years ago, Warren Buffett gave away most of his money, and now he's suddenly one of the richest men in the world again. Well, these people can do this because of dividend income. Many, many years ago, when Warren Buffett bought Coca-Cola stock, and this is just one of the companies he owns, to this day, he earns, he actually did his research a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, he still earns $650 million a year off his Coca-Cola dividends every single year. So that's how this is this continuous generational wealth. This is how the Rockefellers pass wealth from one generation to another, regardless of how they made it. This is how they keep it, and this is how all of the people in their family will never have to work. They change their family tree. And I'm going to show you just a little, for instance, how if you don't think that a modest amount of money can change your family tree for generations to come, I hope to kind of encourage you otherwise here. So let's kind of take a look at this. So what am I talking about? Well, a couple of these companies would be 3M and Johnson & Johnson. Other ones too, but I don't want to beat a dead horse. You know, I talk about Procter & Gamble a lot, things like that. Let's talk about 3M first. 55,000 different products 3M makes. In your day-to-day life, I guarantee you touch at least one of these products. All right? They've been in business since 1902. They started in St. Paul, Minnesota. They have paid a dividend for 100 plus years. So think about everything that has happened in this country and around the world for the last 100 years. All right? Now, they have increased it the last 61 consecutive years. I thought this was 64 years, but the source I looked it up from said 61. So 61, 64, doesn't really matter. Now think of all the things that have happened in the last 64 years. A lot has gone on since then. Next, let's talk about Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson has more than 100 different brands, from consumer to hygiene, medical devices, pharmaceuticals, you name it, they're part of it. They've been around since 1886. They have 24 consecutive years of dividend growth. They've been around since 1886, but they didn't go public until 1944. They had kind of a rocky start. They'd pay and then they wouldn't pay, and it just wasn't consecutive for a while there. But when they did pay, they'd pay a huge dividend. I looked one up. They paid one year 100% dividend, and then another time they paid 200%. So if you took, just for some fun math and to see what the possibilities are here, if you put $10,000 in Johnson & Johnson in 1944, and there's still people alive today that could have done this, you know, the grandparents or some older people. $10,000 in 1944, what would that be today in Johnson & Johnson? Anybody want to take a guess? $98.6 million. Off of your first, that would have gotten you about 260 shares of Johnson & Johnson. If you let the dividends reinvest, there was stock splits along the way, a lot of stock splits. $10,000 would be $98.6 million since 1944. And think about everything that's happened since 1944. This crisis we're in now is, yes, it's different. Yes, it's worse. Yes, it's very different. It is, honestly. But if you believe this is the end of everything, then what does it all matter anyway? Why do anything? You might as well find a hole to crawl into. You got to try. I just behave as though there is a future. I choose to believe there is. I could be wrong. Hey, you know, with this strategy, you can somewhat protect yourself from a devalued dollar. And how the heck does buying 3M or Johnson & Johnson do that? Well, these companies are so big and entrenched in your day-to-day life. They have pricing power. If we somehow enter an economic crisis where 3M, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, Colgate, Palmolive, all these bigger companies fail, your money ain't going to be worth anything anyway. And you won't recognize your life. So for the week of June 22nd through 26th, there was no dividend increases or cuts. Picked up some more additional shares of Toronto Dominion Bank, current yield of 5.19%. PBCT, which is People's First United Bank, the yield was 6.46%. Some more Verizon, 4.56%. PPL, a utility, at 6.5%. And Aflac at an additional 3.18%. Who paid for the week? Royal Dutch Shell B shares. There's A shares and B shares. The current yield of 4.1%. As you remember, this is a company that had cut their dividend a couple months ago when oil tanked. So we're going to wait, recover, see how this does. I'm not interested in putting any more money in it right now. FDVV, which is a dividend-paying ETF by Fidelity. It doesn't really have a rate. Each stock holding within the ETF pays a different rate. And then similar with SDY, which is an S&P 500 dividend fund. And BP. Look at that 10.89% current yield. When you're new to this and you see a dividend yield like that, it's enticing to jump on it and say, oh my gosh, I'm gonna put all my money here. I can earn 10% on my money. That's what we call a dividend trap. Okay, we don't know for sure if BP is going to continue to pay this. It's nip and tuck. They may in the future reduce their dividend. So we're definitely not putting any more in there. And when you're looking at companies, we evaluate those high yields like that. Typically, you'd want to stay away from them because a lot of them are traps. They can't pay it. If you look at their earnings, look at their payout ratios, look at their dividends, you'll see quickly that they don't have enough money to pay that. So we don't want to be a part of that. It's a common trap that people fall into, especially when you're newer and enthusiastic about it. So I'm not going to sell it. I'm just going to put it on hold and see what happens with the company. If oil recovers, things turn around, BP could recover nicely and do quite well. But for now, they have said they will continue to pay it. But of course, we all know that things like that can change quickly. So that's just a weekly recap. Hope to see you all again next week. Have a great day. Thank you.